It's Alien!
There's a horror movie called Alien. That's really offensive. No wonder everyone keeps invading you.
One of the most influential sci-fi horror films ever made, with its eerie atmosphere, claustrophobic suspense, and those slow but cool as hell intro titles. It says Alien!
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock!
45 years old, and this film holds up remarkably well. It is like 2001: A Space Odyssey meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In fact, those were two of this film's biggest influences, spawning a franchise that would have one great sequel, and yeah, those as well.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
I cannot emphasise enough how influential and groundbreaking this film was when it released in 1979. But it was almost a very different story. We may never have got Alien at all, because the original script had so much blood and guts in it, it was literally unreadable, just covered in blood. No, I kid. But originally it was pitched as being way gorier than the version we know and love today. And no one wanted to produce this because it was so far out there. Although the late Roger Corman was interested. Wonder how that would have gone. Not gonna lie, it would be interesting. Low budget alien with cheesy effects and a ludicrous plot. Imagine that in an Alien film. Oh yeah. We've got that. Of course though, in the end, 20th Century Fox swept in and picked it up. And thus, we have Alien. The story itself, as if you don't know, features a crew of 7 aboard a space tug vessel that answers a distress signal, only to find themselves face to face, literally in John Hurt's case, with the most terrifying creature in the universe. A lube-soaked phallic symbol. Hey, it's kinda true they used KY jelly to make the goo for the alien, and its head looks like a big old D. And that's not D for Deirdre Barlow, it's D for Dick. Okay, so people may joke that it looks a bit phallic-like, but personally I think it's a great design. The alien is just so memorable, creepy and sinister. It is the first time I saw an alien in a movie and thought that looks something otherworldly, rather than just a guy in a costume, which is funny because it is just a guy in a costume. But they use camera trickery to stop it feeling like an old Godzilla film. They never actually show the entirety of the alien in one frame. They only show close-ups of various parts of the alien, which was so clever and worked brilliantly. The only time I have an issue with it was when Dallas died, because he was an amazing man and he didn't deserve it, you monsters! Nah, but the way they showed the alien here is the only time I felt it looked like a guy in a suit. There was something about the way it was just like, surprise! That just made it look more humanoid compared to all the other scenes, and it just hasn't aged that well. And it just looks a bit goofy. But my god, when Brett kicked the bucket, that was freaking tense! It is hands down the greatest scene, and you know the way people talk about the T-Rex breakout scene in Jurassic Park? That's the way I look at this scene. It's just incredibly well executed. The film as a whole is insanely suspenseful, but everything was firing on all cylinders for this scene. From the lighting, the griminess of the set, to the look on that cat's face, and the reveal of the inner mouth attack that we all still parody with staplers to this day. It was perfect. But back to John Hurt playing Nostromo crew member Kane, the first person to be killed by a facehugger. I would not want to die like that. Having something jump on your face, choke you out and force a baby alien down your throat which will grow inside you in a matter of hours and burst its way out of your chest while everyone's having their tea. It's a bloody awful way to go! And bloody awful is probably how the cast remember shooting this scene. In order to invoke a more genuine reaction, the director didn't tell the cast about how much blood and guts would spurt out in that scene, which is fine, but it didn't stop there. It was real blood and guts. Specifically, animal blood and guts. The cast said it smelt awful, and after shooting, actor Yaphet Kotto went home, locked himself in a room and refused to speak to his wife for several hours due to finding the experience so disturbing. Now, I'm all for little tricks to get a better performance out of people, but the key word there is performance. They were all good actors, so just let them act. You don't need to traumatize them to get a real reaction. Either way, it doesn't change the fact that the scene turned out to be good and stands out as one of the most highly recognizable death scenes in all of film history. As for the main character herself, Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley became a fan favourite character, and she stayed on for a further 3 movies in this franchise. Whether they were good or not, I especially loved the way she was able to portray Ripley as both strong and fierce, but also showing her vulnerability when she was faced with the alien. The ending especially, as she was singing "You Are My Lucky Star" to calm herself down as she manoeuvres herself to the controls. Again, not looking back. She knows it's there and that she could be a second away from death at any moment. You can really see the terror in her eyes and hear it in her voice. The only thing that I didn't like about this scene was the lighting. It may not affect everyone, but for me, I can't watch this in a dark room. The amount of light flickering is insane. It is headache-inducing, which is a shame, because horror films are best experienced in the dark. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, it's just too much. Outside of that though, great ending to a great film. Then there's the milk-filled robot, Ash, played by Ian Holm, who was secretly working against the crew. He was programmed to manipulate events to expose a crew member to the alien and transport it back to Earth for science and money reasons. This is something that would come into play much more in the sequels, with Weyland-Yutani being the company that is behind every shitty decision in this franchise. You know, apart from Fox. But here it is just used as A method to explain why the crew was subjected to the alien, and B, add in a secondary threat, because when Ripley discovers this, a fight happens. It is a very old school slasher movie kind of fight, and after the crew gives him what for, they turn him back on, and he just lies there all creepily and puts even more emphasis on how dangerous the alien is. As if that thing needed to seem more terrifying, but Ash pulled it off. To be fair, I'd be more scared of something if a milk robot was describing it to me.
I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
So that is Alien, a fantastic film, great acting, and some really good set designs. So overall, I will give Alien a 10 out of 10 because it is a great film that I really don't have many issues with. Just nitpicky stuff like this scene not really aging well, but it really is only a nitpick. And yes, there was the stuff that happened behind the scenes, like the real animal blood, which just wasn't necessary at all, and director Ridley Scott asking Yaphet Kotto to annoy Sigourney Weaver while on set to create this annoyance between their characters, which Kotto was unhappy about because he liked Weaver and enjoyed working with her. Stuff like this just doesn't need to happen, because if you hire good enough actors and you are a good enough director, just let them act, and direct their acting to fine-tune their performance to your vision. But I understand that these things don't change the film that we ultimately got, which is a high-quality, suspense-driven horror film steeped in atmosphere. Just like Jared Leto's behaviour while making Suicide Squad isn't why I think that's a bad movie. In fact, that might be a fun one to talk about in a future video. However, in any case, Alien, a classic horror film that kick-started a franchise, introducing the alien life cycle with the scary as hell facehuggers, adorable little baby alien, and the sinister, slightly penis-headed, grown xenomorph, which is actually a name that didn't come about until James Cameron's sequel. Now before I wrap up, I just want to briefly talk about the director's cut. Ridley Scott went in and cut various scenes down by about 10 to 15 seconds to speed up the pace of the movie, and then later said that was more of a marketing thing for a later release of that film, and that he prefers the theatrical version and deems it to be flawless. Personally, I would agree. I didn't think there was any pacing issues with the theatrical version, so that is the version that I would recommend watching. Alien is one of my favourite films of all time, which leads on to one of my other favourite films of all time, Aliens, which I will be talking about very soon. You have been watching Good or Bad, and if you've enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you next time.